lives. So last week the first week we talked about chesed, God's loving kindness, and how we reflect that into the world. And last week we talked about gevurah, which is might, our strength, our power, our discipline, and how these two, chesed and gevurah, balance each other. And it's important that we do a lot of work on ourselves thinking about, maybe you're a person that's bent towards judgment. I'm not bent towards loving kindness. Sorry, I could just be, that's not my bent. I would much rather be critical and cynical than being open to just, whatever. I'm much more prone to say, hey, get off your butt and go to work, than to go, hey, can I bring you some food? That's just my nature. I'm just being completely transparent with y'all. So if you go you're not real compassionate. No, I know. I'm sorry. Did you? Am I all in your business? So I know though how I'm bent. Now I can either lean into that, and I can use that to build a better life and help people around me, because there's a helpfulness to having that kind of attitude. That's the gevurah part of having the discipline, the power might thing. But it also can become really toxic, right? Where I do get cynical and critical a lot. And I have to always fight against just not diving into that pit of cynicism where everything is tainted by my critical mindset, right? So I have to balance this way with chesed, and I have to learn that I need more of this part. Some of you, like we talked about last week, have more of a Messiah complex, where you're full of chesed, but you don't have much gevurah. And so you get doormatted, you get sucked dry, right? People will parasite off of you if you let them. That's just the way that it is. And so you have to draw those lines. You have to create space. So the whole idea of this, when we're talking about it as a quality of who God is, or a part of who God is that God is He is loving kindness. That's God is love, right? That He is loving kindness. But if God just gave us everything we wanted, like some people think He should, like some genie up in heaven, some celestial Santa Claus, if He did that, then we would turn out like every other child that's given everything they want and never disciplined, right? If you see some of those running around here, don't say anything. We already know. We already know our kids are rotten. It's okay. And so God, in the way that, if we're going to psychoanalyze God, God's chesed is restricted by gevurah. And so that God cannot be just the tap opens and the blessings pour out all the time, and we just have no need for anything, and life's never hard, and there's no difficulties, and we never fail, and we never sin, and we're never uncomfortable, and we're never offended. God disciplines Himself. He restricts Himself because this is good for us. This is good for us. You know that falling on your face is good for you. Now, you may not let your kids do it. I don't know why we do that. Why is that we always talk about, well, the way when we were kids and we were coming up, blah, 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 and then we turn to our kids and we go, come baby, let me coddle you. And then we wonder why they can't get their life together. Hello. I'm saying that as somebody who hasn't let my first one out into the real world yet. Remind me, right, a couple years that I said these things. Hold me accountable, please. So chesed is balanced by gevurah, but gevurah is also balanced by chesed, right? Like I said, I know which way I'm bent out of the two, and so I have to be. So God restricts His justice, His might, His power by His loving kindness. And so there's this beautiful balance between the two. And the only way that we have any room to exist is if God restricts Himself. It's the only way we have any chance of standing before Him is for Him to restrict Himself in different different ways when he deals with us. In the same way, for people around us to benefit from these parts of God that are in us, sometimes we have to restrict ourselves when dealing with other people. Robin, sometimes you have to let them fall. I don't mean to call you out, but I am. And sometimes I need to not be such a jerk. This is just part of what we have to learn as we navigate. The reason why this is so important is not just for self-development. It's not just so that I can be a better person. And it's not even because I can help everybody around me better. I can cultivate the kingdom better. Those two things are secondary to this is manifesting who we see God as in the world. This is God's reputation on the line. So if I lean on my chesed and I make a bunch of enablers around everybody around me, who does that tell them God is? He's a genie. Right? If I just give with no accountability, no boundaries, no checks and balances, no nothing, and I'm like, I hate that I have to do it, but I just keep doing it, then it tells people that God is that way. Conversely, if all I do is, thank you. I was going to say something different, but thank you for saving me. If all I do is judge and criticize and critique and moan and groan and all about how the world is and all this, and I'm forceful about everything, and I have no tenderness and no softness, but everything is like hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour, then who are people going to think God is? See, we forget that God is not something out there and separate from us. That when we gave ourselves to him through Yeshua, that we became his and he became ours, and we are joined together, we are locked together. He created us with his essence, and whenever we become his child, that essence now, we are responsible for protecting God's reputation. I wrote this down a few weeks ago and I didn't get a chance to read it, so this feels like a good time. This was from just some notes I took on Parsha haOmer. This was a few weeks ago, where it talks about God choosing the nation of Israel. This is Leviticus 21 to 24 is Parsha haOmer. And it talks about the people being a chosen people, right? Which is also echoed in 1 Peter 2 in the New Testament. Chosen people, two words that stir up all kinds of emotions. Chosen people can stir up pride, arrogance, right? Resentment. When we talk about the Jews being the chosen people, a lot of Christians have resentment against that. That's why they cut them off as a natural branch and inserted ourselves in their place and went, ha ha. Have you ever read Martin Luther? Don't, because it'll make you so mad you want to scratch your eyes out. But he wrote things about what to do with these devil Jews, these liars, and these blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And basically, Martin Luther's idea was just cut them off. We're the true people now. God rejected them. Let's all reject them. Let's do what God did and reject Israel and cut them off. They're no longer a thing. Ta-da! Protestantism. Chosen people. Does it mean better than others? We can say no because we know that's the Sunday school answer. But in our heart of hearts, when we think chosen, we do think it means better than others. You can say no, that's not what God means, but in your heart of hearts, that's what you think it means. I know, by the way, that we react to different things. Well, if the Jews are chosen, then what about us? But that reaction comes from a misunderstanding that we have to understand today. I'm going to ask for a show of hands because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But reading about the offerings of all of the Nasi, the princes of the tribes, right? Reading of all the offerings and stuff, it's boring. I'll say it for you. You don't have to. It's boring. So-and-so brought so-and-so for this offering. So-and-so brought so. I get it, right? Okay, great. Over and over and over. All these names we don't know, don't care about, they don't mean anything to us, whatever. It's just this thing we get through till we get to something that we can use and apply in our lives. That's the difference between being chosen and not being chosen. It's not a matter, as I said several weeks ago, It's not a matter of value. It's a matter of responsibility. Being chosen or not has nothing to do with your value. It has to do with your responsibility. I wrote down this idea that being chosen, the central message of the Parsha Emor, is the most radical spiritual mission statement ever given to a nation. And so the idea is that chosen is all about responsibility. Now, I believe that when I was drawn to Yeshua, to Hashem through Yeshua, I believe that I became chosen at that time. I believe that God chose me before my mother's womb, and that's the time that I realized it. So, I'm not saying that only the Jewish people are chosen, but they were chosen first. I had lunch with a friend of mine last week, and he kind of jokes a little bit because he doesn't understand that I'm not Jewish, but I kind of live Jewish. He just doesn't get it, which is cool. But so he throws in these little jokes and little barbs and stuff, and I think he's uncomfortable, so that's why he does it. And so he uses humor or tries. And we were talking about something, and he said, "Oh, God loves Jews too?" And I said, "Well, he loved them first, and still loves them first, above y'all." So. And then we just moved along, and he kind of went, huh, and just kind of moved right along. And the truth is that we have to look at what it means to be chosen from the people that God chose first. And what it meant was responsibility. Yes, there are incredible privileges, but a privilege without a responsibility creates a spoiled brat, right? And so we can't just claim all of the blessings of God without having some skin in the game and cultivating these things. There's a little commentary or note that I read on this when I was talking about comparing the fruit of the Spirit with the midot, and I just thought it was interesting. It says the Sefirat, the aspects of God, for the Jew, they do mitzvot in order to actualize a sephirah in their lives. In other words, if you need more chesed, you need to do commandments that relate to chesed. You need to do things that show loving kindness. If you need to cultivate more gevurah, you need to do things, mitzvot, that entail discipline and justice and those kinds of things, right? So it's action-based where you manifest or you actualize those things. And then this little commentary says, while Christians pray for the Spirit to cultivate the fruit, and I just wanted to throw my tablet across the room. Because that's the problem. That's the problem with the whole thing. Jews do stuff, and Christians just pray. Not that prayer is bad, but Jews pray while they're doing. Christians pray and don't do. See the incongruency? There's an incompleteness there. And the truth of the matter is the best way to actualize or manifest these things is to do it through the Torah and not just expect the Spirit to sprinkle some, fruit of the Spirit dust on you and all of a sudden you got it like in spades. It's not how it works. So we talked about last week, the end of last week, how Chesed and Gevurah synthesize or they produce this Sefirat, which is called Tiferet. Tiferet has the definition. I'll do it on this side so it'll be easier to see. All of these words have a lot of different aspects that we could talk about, but Tiferet is mostly beauty. You'll see it. Try not to misspell it because I know y'all are watching. So it's mostly translated as beauty in Scripture, but also harmony or compassion. So this is kind of the fundamentals of what Tiferet is: beauty, harmony, and compassion. The definition I like is harmonious compassion. Have you ever had fake compassion? Don't lie. Thank you. Because a preacher or somebody told you you should have compassion on this, and you thought, I don't really want to have compassion on that. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how Brady and I were talking about praying for your enemies. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. If you accidentally offend or hurt me, fine, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for that you be more aware of your surroundings. But if you hurt me or offend me on purpose, no, sorry, I don't want to pray for you. I don't want to pray for that. I know that's not right. I get it. Sorry. Just being transparent. Not sorry. This Sefirat is the harmony, the synthesis between being a person that is full of loving kindness and being a person that understands judgment and might. And so it's a beautiful wholeness that comes from cultivating those two aspects, those two midot. It sits in the center of the tree of life. And so we are going to come back and revisit this later when we get down all the way down to here. This is Yesod and Malchut, the kingdom or royalty. We're going to get all the way down to Malchut, and then we're going to come back to Sefirat, because Sefirat is the heart. It's the center of the tree of life. Compassion, beauty, harmony, right? And so the emotional attribute, like we've kind of been talking about these, we said compassion. Also, we describe this as equilibrium, and I love that. I love that idea, equilibrium. How many of you get stressed because you're Gevurah dominant? Show of hands. How many of you live stressed and anxious because you're Gevurah dominant? Yeah, right? Okay, thank you, Melanie. Travis didn't have to. I heard him moan. Do you ever get negatively affected personally because you're Chesed dominant? Right? What? Wait. What are you talking about? Crying at Market Basket. You see, Travis? Bruh. He said, bruh. So imagine feeling those extremes, which are they're part of that, they're part of these qualities, but sometimes we live in those extremes. And then imagine equilibrium, what that feels like. Where you have enough maturity and sobriety and wisdom in the spirit to be able to recognize when to engage chesed and when to engage gevurah. That state of being, that place of spiritual maturity is called Sefirat. It's a place of harmonious compassion where there's equilibrium, where your value is not fed by how many people you help or serve. Sorry to offend anybody. Most of us give because we know we're supposed to, and we know that it's what God asks us to, and we've been blessed, and we should give and help, and we should spread chesed. But there's also a sneaky little thing in us that gets a little dopamine rush whenever we help someone. And sometimes we overextend ourselves to help people because it's a value statement on who we are as people. Try not to look at anybody because I don't want you to think I'm talking about you. Sometimes our need, our desire, our have to help, have to give, can't let somebody go without is not about them or about God, it's about us. What does it say about me if I see someone suffering and I choose not to do anything about it? What is it if I have somebody in my life that I feel like is really struggling and I feel like I just can't be the one to do it? What does that, it gives you a pit in your stomach, it makes you angry, it makes you hurt, you're disappointed in yourself, all these things. That's not true chesed. Equilibrium, maturity is when you realize it's not my job, and it doesn't say anything about me because I can't give, because I can't help, or because I choose not to in this moment, because I need right now, or because somebody else needs, or whatever the reason is, right? Imagine being a person of Gevurah and having control over that emotion, where your chest doesn't tighten up, where you automatic. Have y'all seen, what's the cartoon, Inside Out? Y'all seen that with your kids, grandkids? Okay. The Gevurah is the little red guy. It's played by, who does his voice? Yeah, but his anger, yeah. Where he just, Lewis Black, thank you, I love Lewis Black, he's fantastic. But that's kind of the essence of Gevurah, can be just somebody following another vehicle, somebody slides right in the middle and there's no space. Y'all, I want to eat the steering wheel. It makes me so mad, right? And I see him. I see the little red guy just going full tilt, right? Block him out. Not today. Not today. My brother. All right. Heather's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm doing. Shut up. Leave me alone. But imagine not having a tightness in your chest all day long. Imagine being able to breathe like a normal person. Imagine not being on 11 when you wake up in the morning, just like somebody say something. I'm waiting for the one who will. And just having a little, you may not be a sloppy, kissy, chesed person, but you may not just be so that's Tiferet. That's that beautiful harmony, that compassion, that sense of equilibrium, where if I'm not saving everybody all the time, the world's not going to fall apart, and I'm at peace with that. If I'm not constantly trying to correct stuff and bring discipline and order everywhere, the world's not going to fall apart, and I'm okay with that. The truth of the matter is, the world's not going to fall apart either way. The question is, are you going to be okay recognizing that the world's not going to fall apart? Everybody else knows it. Your spouse knows it. Your kids know it. People at work know it. Everybody else knows that the world doesn't revolve around you. Yeah, your world may fall apart. Yeah, right, yeah. Everybody else knows that the world doesn't revolve around you. Everybody but you and me. I'm not talking just to you. I'm talking to me. So in Scripture, we have different ways of talking about using of Tiferet. It comes from the root word, actually is pa'ar, is the root word of Tiferet. So if you go to look this up in your Scripture, it may be kind of hard to find it. So in your Strongs, it'll be pa'ar, and I had the number. I don't have it right now. But it talks about beauty, God's beauty. So it's all over the place. You can do some word searches on that. It talks about God a lot, but also Solomon's temple, the Mishkan, the dwelling place of God is called beautiful, and it's this word Tiferet, this idea of Tiferet. And so while we have Tiferet as the attribute that merges Chesed and Gevurah, it blends the benevolent flow of Chesed and the severity of Gevurah so that God's benevolence can be absorbed by the limited world. Thus, Tiferet is sometimes called compassion or rachamim in Hebrew because it tempers God's might with love. In the haOmer, the counting of the haOmer, we have a whole week that is dedicated to this. And so generally you seek inner harmony between love and discipline because it has to start with you. But there are exercises that you can do, even outside the counting of the haOmer. You can try some of these things. Try cultivating your compassion for a difficult person. Now, this is very important. Not for difficult people, for a difficult person. Because if you try to cultivate compassion for difficult people, you'll be overwhelmed before you start. Because there's a lot of difficult people out there. I mean, none of us, obviously, but out there. They're everywhere. So, pick a difficult person in your life. And listen, don't go all ham on it. Doesn't mean that you just have to fall in love with them, right? And sloppy kiss them and just think they're God's gift. It doesn't mean you have to do that. Compassion can simply begin with attempting to understand why they're difficult. And you may go, well, like, I don't have that much time. I get it. But this is about cultivate. It's not about reaping the harvest of Sefirat. It's about beginning the cultivating process. And sometimes, all the time, cultivating starts with breaking the ground first. There's ground that's hard. You got to get in there and you got to break it up. And what happens when you first break up hard ground? It's lumpy and rough. Okay? So as you begin cultivating compassion for a different person, expect it to be ugly. It's not going to feel right. It's going to be like, ugh, I don't like this. Okay? It's going to be hard. It's going to be stressful. It probably cause your anxiety to go up, all those things. But it's the beginning process, okay, for a difficult person. Maybe another thing you can try is whenever you have adversity that comes. Anybody's had any adversity lately? Any, good. Yep, I didn't think so. Me either. Any adversity that comes, find, however small of a smidgen, to rejoice in. Ooh, it burns. When you face adversity, however small, find something to rejoice in. I don't even like saying it. I want to throw up in my mouth. Because whenever adversity comes, I want to be mad. My instinct is this. When something comes, I'm coming back. Like that's my nature. But that's destructive. Generally, during the counting of the haOmer, when we're talking about these, we meditate on Psalms of thanksgiving. Like Psalm 96 talks about splendor and majesty being before Him, and different prayers in the Siddur. The point of this is striving for the middle, for the balance. That's what Sefirat is all about. It's the balance. It's the middle. So whatever you feel like you're off on one side, strive for what does the middle look like? What does balance look like? What does harmony look like? Giving someone everything that you can until you give out is not compassion. And so, what does true compassion really look like? So this Sefirat is mapped to joy or peace when we're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. So we're trying to make these connections. Most closely aligning with joy. Now, I'll just be honest. I'm not a happy person. Joy is something I've struggled with my entire life. Heard a gazillion sermons on it. I've heard happiness being demonized because happiness is a fleeting thing. You don't want to be happy. You want to have joy. Well, come to find out, Psalm 1, blessed is the man, means happy. Just happy. Joy is something I've always struggled with because I don't have an innate sense of like, everything's good, man. The world's great. I can't believe I get another day. Woo. Like, that's just not that's just not me. You know what I mean? And so, if joy is supposed to be like this thing that just like, it's just percolating, it's just bubbling inside, keeping you all, like, sorry, my dude, I don't know. That's not it. Yeah, peace and love. It's all good. But understanding joy in a context of, okay, here's two sides of the coin, and the middle, a good balance of both is joy. Because whenever I'm at equilibrium, that's joy. When I'm at equilibrium and nothing is pulling me way one way or the other, and I'm not having these huge spikes in personality and in emotional response and all these kinds of things, that equilibrium, that middle, that peace, that sense of balance, that's joy. Do what? 2-hour drive with nobody pulling in front of you. That's joy, right? No. So in Hebrew, the word for joy is simcha, which simcha comes naturally from a harmonious balance. That's where it comes from. Where everything may not be okay, but how you respond to everything is in your control. Do you realize that? How you respond to things is in your control. I used to teach this to students whenever we were dealing with temptation and stuff. And as adults, I think it's just as important to understand. There are phases to every occurrence we have in our life. There's the stimulus, the temptation, if you want to call it, the difficult person, whatever the input is, the stimulus. There is the outcome, which can be an overreaction, which can be a sin if it's a temptation. You have all of these outcomes. What we fail to take advantage of is that in the middle of the input and the output, we have a decision to make. So many times, though, it all happens so fast, and we see that person coming, no blinker, and you're watching them, and you go, I know you're not. There's barely enough, I know you're not. No blinker, there it goes. And before we even realize it, nuclear, right? And in that moment, we have, I'm not going to say the opportunity, we have the responsibility to make the right decision. We have the responsibility to make the decision on how we're going to react. Because as I've said before, and I'm reading a book now Chris gave me, so good. I'll recommend it whenever I get done with it. But the things that happen to us are not what cause us stress. How we react to them is what stresses us. You don't believe me? Try it this week. Try it. I dare you. I double dog dare you. To find yourself in a situation that you know is going to stress you, and make a conscious effort to take the time to decide to react differently than you would have before. See how it changes. I guarantee you, see how it changes. What is that going to take? That takes this. That takes this. Because you can't passively change your reaction and go, well, the Spirit's going to help me react differently. No, He's not. He's not. You take control of yourself. You are not some mindless, empty vessel that now the Spirit just controls like some kind of animatronic figure. That's not how it works. I'm sorry to bust your bubble. You have to engage the good sense and self-control that God gave you. And the reason why Gevurah is tied not only to discipline but to might or power is because in order to have discipline, you have to be forceful. You have to be forceful to yourself. In order to change the way that you react and to bring balance and to bring equilibrium into your life, no matter what side of Chesed or Gevurah you're on, sometimes you have to act on yourself with some power and might. So when we teach kids self-defense in martial arts, there's a lot of different theories on how you can do it, a lot of different practices, and it's cool. I typically gravitate towards the like Krav Maga style, where if somebody's coming towards you, you don't back up. Because if you back up, you're going to find yourself right in their sweet spot. If somebody's coming at you and they're gonna swing, they're gonna be a haymaker, you go inside, you get all up in their stuff, and you jam them up so that you now have control over that situation. Don't run. Once you get control and neutralize, then you run. And in our lives, if we want to change these things, if you're tired of being miserable and not having equilibrium, not having joy, and being pulled by those extreme sides of your emotional state, that's not godly image bearing. And you have to have power and force to go, I'm not going to react like I used to. I'm not going to react like I did before. I am going to make the conscious decision that I have responsibility to change how I'm going to react. And I guarantee you, try it. It's going to make a difference. That tightness, that cloudiness, that whatever, that sense of not well-being just doesn't exist. This all stems from a correct view of understanding God's nature and our joy in who He is. You have to continue to remind yourself as you're working on you have to continue to remind yourself that you're not in this alone. Now, what do you say? You're contradicting yourself. No. The Spirit of God is not going to do it for you, but He will do it with you. Because that's who He is. This is who God is. God is the synthesis of chesed and gevurah. You have to always go back to the source. Because if we just do it in our own strength, you're going to wear yourself out. Because you're trying to change years, decades of who you are. You're trying to steer the Titanic. And so it's important to realize that all of this Sefirat stems from, first of all, realizing that God Himself balances Himself. You want to be like God? You want to act like Hashem? You have to learn how to balance yourself. And again, this goes back a lot of times to our value. If you don't get to help everybody you want, it doesn't say anything less about who you are. And you know what? If you let things go that you don't agree with, that are not right, that you think need to be disciplined in order, if you just let them go and let them pass by, it's going to be okay. I promise. It's going to be okay. You might not be okay, but the world around you will be okay. Because this is what God does. Does God step in and fix everything that needs to be fixed? No. Is there injustice in the world? Is there hurt? Is there oppression? Is there evil? Why doesn't God fix it? Because if God let out His justice, everything would be destroyed. Are there hungry people? Are there people that are alone and sad and without hope? Yes. Does God fix everything? No. As I said last week, the Messiah didn't even have a Messiah complex. And so we're after Sefirat. We're after balance and harmony and equilibrium. There's a word that you remember from today. It's equilibrium. So this week, try to have compassion for a difficult person and try to rejoice in adversity. Lastly, take the responsibility that is yours of making good decisions on your reactions.